people can see
Maybe
that happening.
Ricky can help us figure that out.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, he's pretty good at that stuff.
Yeah, I hold a computer science degree from Georgia Tech, but that's not helping me anywhere in this mess.
Hey, man, when I was in college, I had a computer class, and it was how many bytes does it take to make a bit?
Yeah.
If you go back that far on computers, this was like 77, 76, 77. And there's no such thing as Windows or anything. It was just like, how many bytes does it take to make a bit?
Yeah.
And how many bits does it take to make some other shit? Now, it didn't make it's pretty useless.
There's bits in a byte and bytes in a word and words and
That's
a
right.
squiggle and a something or other.
That's right.
Let me tweet this out for us.
Oh, yeah,
There
so
we
this
go.
is the portion where I'm supposed to start talking to you, Rick, and I always forget. So we got, we've got about a handful of questions that we'll ask in the Ask Ask PTM section, and we'll just all answer them together. We may cue you to answer first, or we may go first.
Oh, to lose you? Are you there?
We're here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. It might have been me. I don't know.
Oh, that's all right.
That'll happen.
Okay.
And then, so we have our standard segments. They haven't changed a lot since the last time you were with us. They're pretty similar. We're going to talk about last weekend, obviously. I mean, that was a big part about having you on. You're from Virginia. We just raced at Martinsville. We had a really exciting thing happen. And lots of people are fired up about it. And then, of course, because of that and who won, that's why I asked you about the Roger Penske, Rusty Wallace question. Whether you had some kind of funny story to tell there. And then we're just going to let whatever happens happen. And if we end up having to clip,
that's usually best with me.
Yeah, if we end up having to clip segments because we run long, we don't care. It doesn't. I mean, we're not we're just regimented crowd here. We just want people to be entertained, and we want to hear and we want to entertain ourselves. And a lot of that has to do with you telling us things that we would otherwise never have known, which is,
sell
awesome.
The brand, baby. You got to sell the brand, sell the show.
My man.
That's it.
Roger, the Beast, and Jumpy Bob all with us.
So we've already started the YouTube live, which means people are going to start. We'll probably get somewhere between 15 and 25 people will come on and start playing around on the chat wall, and we like to give them an opportunity to do that because anybody that's dedicated enough to watch this live like it's a TV show, they ought to get.
You need to cater to them. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows. And catering, we will. It's about 10 after. I'm about ready to start. Rick, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Sherwin?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, again, Rick, we might cut out for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute here, but we'll be right back with you. Shouldn't be a problem. Bro. All right, y'all. Here we go. Recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 168. It's Tuesday, October 30th, 2018. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PTM Podcast Studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherman. What's up, man?
How many is 168? Do you have 168 of anything?
No, that's like 10 dozen eggs and then a bunch more.
Right. So it's like, I don't even...
I'm not sure I've bought 168.
A gross of eggs plus 2 more dozen eggs?
Yeah. Maybe like I've bought 168 rice grains before.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got a great show for you. We've got a great guest. We got a lot to talk about before we do. Y'all know what the deal is. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie. Best part is, every cent this year, we are donating to sponsoring drivers once again to join the PTM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show is brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That's Laura Henshaw, Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Tony Saul, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marilyn Best, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brendan Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brandon Carl, Billy Workman, Rika Porter, Jumpy Bob and Les Miller, Tommy Witt, Mark Wiley, Julie Bosley, John Pearson, Eddie Greer III, Younker Motorsports, and Jason Rudd. Woo!
Oh, I think you're going to get a 10 out of 10 from Kepner on that one.
I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. That one, like I always say, it's about halfway through when you know if it's going to be a good one or a multi-breath mess-up thing, and I was just feeling the flow on that
You
one.
just have to play each one on each other. Like when you screw it up good.
Well, let's bring our esteemed guest right to you. Welcome back to the show for his PhD episode. We
That's
do
right.
bachelor's, master's, and PhD here. Native Virginian, Grand National winner, Bandit, OG racer with us, Hollywood stunt driver, co-host of the Mastcast podcast, on Twitter at Rick Mast 22. It's Rick Mast. What's up, Rick?
What's happening, guys? What's happening?
We are super excited to have you on the show, not just to have you on the show because you're on the show, but after everything, well, the big thing that went down this weekend, getting a racer's perspective on all the stuff. We'll get into that in a minute, but we're plumb excited to have you on the show.
Well, I'll tell you, you're catching me in a bad mood now, and I'll tell you why. I've got an alpha possum problem.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Have you ever heard of that?
I don't think I have.
Well, let me explain to
Please.
you what that means, guys. I live out in the country, as I'm born and raised and all that. And, you have a wildlife around. But anyhow, at our home, we have a couple of indoor cats. We've got outdoor cats.
Yep.
Right? So the outdoor cats, we feed them right outside the back door of the house. And, as time has went on here, since we lost the last dog, he passed into doggy heaven, the cats have befriended a lot of the animals. We have 2 foxes, we've got 1 skunk, and a little family of possums that all come and eat the cat food with the cats.
Mm-hmm.
It's the darndest thing. And I tell people, and I have to take pictures sometimes because the cats will rub up against the skunk, and the skunk's rubbed up against the fox, and the fox rubbed up against the possums. And they all sit there like a big community. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the political world right now. If they could see these animals getting along, they'd like, well, if they can do it, we can do it, right? So anyhow,
I was about to say.
So anyhow, I got no problem. Well, a while back, not too long ago, one of the outside cats was what I called the alpha cat. He was a big old tomcat, right? And this whole thing worked well. Well, we lost the tomcat here not too long ago. He went into kitty heaven. Well, since he did that, all of a sudden this alpha possum shows up. Well, when the alpha possum shows up, he tries to run everything else away. He won't let the fox, the skunk, the cats, or nothing. He if you ever seen a possum hissing at you, it's like the ugliest thing you ever saw. So this alpha possum has done pissed me off because every time you go out there, he's trying to hoard all the food. So finally, I went out there and I took a swipe at him with my foot. I'm sure Peter will like that, but tell them to come on out here in the country and live with me a little bit, and they'll understand. But anyhow, I took a swipe at the thing and kind of rolled him a couple times, and he kind of shook his head off and just looked at me like, "Is that all you got, big boy?" So, kind of swiped at him again. Finally ran him off, and I came in the house, and what do you think my wife says? "Why'd you do that? Why did you kick at the possum?" I'm like, "Good Lord, have mercy." So, it's just it's always something, guys. It's always something you gotta deal with.
Yeah. Well, if you got possums, raccoons, dogs, and outside cats
And the foxes.
and foxes,
And
you
the
got
skunk.
like
Fox and the skunk. The
yeah,
fox and the skunk.
and a skunk. Well, you got a half a dog, half cat with a ass that could blow out the world, and then you got wild dog / cats with raccoons, and I don't know. You got a cat with a tail who's got a pissed off attitude. I don't know how you manage all that.
I'm waiting for one of the local bears to come in here, and he's gonna mess everything up. But the coyotes. I always called them coyote, right? I went out west hunting with Remington one time, and they're called coyotes out there. So I don't know what they are, but we got them around here, and we don't like those guys either.
They showed up in Middle Georgia probably about 15 years ago.
Yep.
And
Right.
they've been they're shoot-on-sight animals with the Georgia DNR.
Yes.
Well,
Like
they all went.
yes.
They all came north too. I mean, here in the we're not even in the suburbs. We're in the city outskirts right here.
Yeah.
And the coyotes are all over.
Yeah. When I shoot squirrels, they're not there the next day, and I assume that's coyotes that are doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're dirty little bastards, man. We don't like them.
Well, Rick, what do you have? What do you have sitting next to you in beverage wise tonight? What you drinking?
I actually I've got a bottle of Desante water empty that I'm using as a spittoon.
That'll happen sometimes.
There you go.
Yeah.
I actually have a Dasani bottle of water that I have used as a spittoon. So
That's right.
Wow,
I'm right there with you, bud.
good company. Sherwin, what do we have drinking on?
The relevant one is I ran across a new Virginia brewery just a few weeks ago called Hardywood. And they have a beer they've branded Vipa, which is Virginia Pale Ale. And it's pretty good.
All right.
So I figured with a native Virginian guest, and we just raced at the best racetrack in NASCAR, which is in Virginia, why not have a Virginia beer?
That's
we actually got right here where I live, which is Rockbridge Baths. That's a suburb of Lexington. I mean, our whole county. I think we've got 20,000 or 21,000 people in our whole county. When school's not in, but when school's in, VMI and WNL University, then we got like 27,000. Right. But anyhow, we've got the brewery here called Devil's Backbone.
Yes,
they've become real popular, and it opened up in Lexington here.
Yeah,
maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And, I was fortunate; I had a hand in helping those guys locate here. So everybody's pretty proud of that brewery.
That's cool. Yeah. So the last either one of the Richmond races or the last Martinsville race, I bought Devil's Backbone for that very reason, because we get that in Atlanta as well. And I've also bought Elijah Craig because despite the fact that Eastern
Who did
Tennessee,
he drive for?
Huh?
Who did he drive for?
Elijah Craig?
Guys, that's a saying you say when it's somebody, a name you don't recognize.
who did he drive for? I love it.
Well, he drove a bourbon distillery that's now located in East Tennessee, but was originally a part of the Virginia colony.
Okay.
So, Rick,
Cool.
When we have guests on, I try to put up a picture of them so everybody can see. And I had an old picture of you last time. I had another picture of your car, and so this time I just took your Twitter avatar, which is you with the twins, real young.
Cool.
Now that said, I was searching for pictures on the internet, and I busted out laughing because I thought, I don't know if he'd find this disrespectful or funny, and I imagine funny is the answer. But there is definitely a picture of your car upside down in the infield of Talladega.
Yeah.
And I thought if I put that up, he might get sideways with me, but he'd have to appreciate the joke. Is there a good story behind being upside down in Talladega?
What do you mean? You mean the one where I wrecked? Is that what you're talking about?
I reckon.
That's the one I went sliding down the front straightaway at 204 miles an hour on the roof, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, dude, it wasn't a damn thing funny about that. What do you mean is there something funny? What would be funny about that? Well, I tell you, it was one thing that was funny about that. When the car finally stopped and the A post had bent down against my helmet, I'm laying upside down, and I can't really move my head. I can't move my head because the A post is the roof basically is against my helmet, got me jammed in there, and I'm thinking, damn, this ain't gonna work. Something's wrong. And the oil tank in those days was right behind the seat in the case, and the oil's dripping on my back, right? And it's hotter than hell. And in fact, I still got scars from those blisters. But anyhow, I finally get my gloves off. I get my helmet strap loose, and I get my helmet off, and I realize real quick that I can't get out right there because it's smashed down, right? And I remember looking, and I see a light, and I'm like, all right, that's where I got to go, where that light is. I get myself unbuckled, and I'm trying to get myself loose, and some guy sticks his head in where that light is. He's a safety worker, and he says, Rick, he says, you all right? I says, yeah, dude, I'm just burning up here. The oil's on me. He says, well, hang on here a little bit. We'll get you out. I said, dude, get the hell out of my way because I'm coming out of that hole. So finally I got myself wiggled loose and come out of the hole. And the funny part, maybe 3 or 4 years later, I'm at Talladega and in the garage area one day, and the guy walks up to me and introduced himself. He said, "Rick, you remember me?" I said, "No." He said, "I'm that son of a bitch that reached up inside your car trying to pull you out that day." I said, "Oh, man, I appreciate it, and I'm sorry also." Drivers, what intelligence we have, we lose a lot of it when we strap into the car. And then when something goes on and gets us excited, we really, really lose a lot of intelligence. And, but those guys know to deal with that. They're all these safety workers. We used to have safety meetings before the race, and a driver would conduct the meeting. Each track you'd go, like 10 o'clock that morning, a driver would be chosen or picked, and you go talk to the safety workers that's at the track, and you just go over everything. And every time I did it, I always told them, I said, "Guys, I love you to death. We all love you. We wouldn't get in these cars if you weren't here. So what you do is very, very important. But you've got to understand when something happens to one of us and you come to help us, just be ready to get ridiculed, because you're going to get ridiculed, because the driver is going to be mad and cussing anything that's in his way. And please do your best. Don't take it personal. And again, we all love you and respect you and need you." So that goes on quite a bit.
Absolutely. It looks like that was the 1991 Die Hard 500 at Talladega.
Die Hard 500. Okay.
Yeah, we were racing. I was behind Davey and going through the trial. When I got under Davey a little bit, and he moved down the track, and I moved down the track also. Well, Buddy Baker was behind me on my left rear. When we all moved down, Buddy didn't move down, right? So it just clipped my left rear, and it got sideways, and the air got under it, and of course the rest is history. The other story is Buddy had given me my first shot in the Cup car in 1988 when he had one of his. I drove his car at Bristol and Darlington. First time I was ever in a car. You talk about getting thrown to the wolves, getting a Cup car in 1988 at Darlington and Bristol. Jesus Christ. But anyhow, so, I was buddies with Buddy. Well, when he came back around, I was still on my roof and hadn't got out of the car. And I didn't know this story until 5 years later. The spotter was telling me that when he went by and he saw I was wrecked, he said, "Buddy started." I said, "Spotter, is Rick not out of that car?" The spotter says, "No, Buddy." He said, "Buddy started talking all the way around that racetrack, and by the time he got around to turn 4, he was convinced that I was dead and he had killed me."
Oh,
and he's like, and he started getting choked up. But Spotter said, cried. He said, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" Said, "Rick, I gave him his first shot in the race car. He's such a good kid. And that beautiful little wife and that little son of his, and what are they going to do?" And what just he's really beside himself. I mean, he got real emotional. And when he came back around the next time, he looked over and I'd gotten out of the car, and he stopped and he hollered to Spotter, said, "Hey, did Rick get out of that car?" He said, "Yeah, buddy, I was trying to tell you, but you wouldn't be quiet." He said, "But he's out of the car and he's okay." He said it was dead silence for like 5 or 10 seconds. And all of a sudden, Buddy come on. He said, "Well, I'm going to tell you something. Remember the little young punk asses? They can't do that shit. You're going to block me. You're going to ask to go get turned around. And Rick needs to learn he can't do that crap. Blah, 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 blah." He went from crying and loving on me to cussing me in 10 friggin' seconds.
That is awesome.
He did not want to disparage the dead, but he will kick ass of the living.
Yeah, it was. You had to know Buddy to really, really appreciate that, because that was Buddy, man. It was all out there on his sleeve all the time.
I love it. So you mentioned him earlier. We did not plan this. I'm going to tilt my camera down. I'm wearing a Davey Allison shirt right now. So
Sweet.
that was when you said that, I was like, "Oh man, perfect!" I dressed for the occasion.
Yep.
The one that Sherwin got me for throwbacks.
Davey was a good buddy, man. We lost him too soon.
I hear you.
Yeah, hats off to that.
Sherwin, you wrote down a note. The captain, go ahead and tell us what that's all about, and let's hear Rick's story.
Well, I don't know what it's about. I just asked him if he had one, because I thought it would be perfect, because we just had Martinsville. One of Rick's drivers won. He won it in a way that I don't know what these weird NASCAR fans that don't understand what stock car racing is are pissed about.
Right.
But he defended his driver. And so I'd love for Rick to tell us a story about the captain.
The captain, Roger.
Well, the captain is one of those dudes, that I wish somehow or another in my career I would have had a chance to drive for. Roger is probably, he's right up there in the top 5 people I've ever interacted with in my life as far as intelligence levels goes. I mean, this dude is sharp. I mean, you got to understand, what's he got, 100,000, 200,000 employees, but And you got to understand, when somebody's like that and all the stuff that he's actually grown with his hands, and made happen. Well, we go to, this is not a funny story. This is just the story about Roger Penske. We were at Indy in '94, and of course, the inaugural race we set on the pole, right? So that was in 1994. So in '02, when I get sick, I get out of the car. So I'm out of the sport for a while. And it was around 2013 or 14, which would have been 20 years after the race. I was at Richmond in the garage area walking around. And the captain, I walked up, and the captain and his right-hand man, Walt, was with him. And I think Chip, and asked a couple of folks, so we just started talking. And they were fussing about qualifying. Something had happened the day before qualifying, and one of them was fussing about something. And Roger looked up and he says, I'm going to tell you one thing. He says, Rick, you remember when you sat on the pole at Indy? I says, yeah. He said, 1994, wasn't it? I says, yeah. He said, me and Walt were sitting down there in turn 3 in the car, passenger car, watching the cars come through turn 3. He says, I looked up and here you came. You got in there deep. He says, you brought that thing right down to the bottom. You hit that son of a bitch wide open, and that car never wiggled. He said, I looked at Walt and said, Walt, if he did the other 4 turns like that, there's the pole position, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, here's a guy that's got a zillion employees, 14 million businesses, right? Race teams out the gazoo, 10 million things going on, and that man recalled just as quick as he could an incident 20 years ago.
Wow.
that really didn't have much relevance on the overall picture for what he was doing, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, no wonder this guy's a billionaire. You know what I mean? Hell, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning, right?
Right.
And I'll tell you, somebody else was like that, intellectual wise, and that was Dale Sr. He doesn't get the credit. He doesn't get the credit for his intelligence level. I mean, the guy was rough and rowdy and tumble and came from nothing, and the intimidator and redneck and all that. But I'm gonna tell you something. The dude was very, very intelligent, and of course, he's God gifted to drive a race car. But the one thing I always thought over the years that never, our scribes never really hit on or talked about or went down that road was just how intelligent the dude was. And we could sit here for the next couple of hours about all that. But just suffice it to say, that's the way he was, and the captain's the exact same way.
Yeah, yeah.
I've spoken on this podcast probably 6 or 8 times. I feel like the same thing about Dale Jr. I think a lot of people have discredited him over the years. Just he's just the old son of the redneck that you speak of. But I think we're learning pretty quick on this NBC stuff and all his podcast stuff and all the things that he's doing with NBC, not just NASCAR. That, hey, by the way, Dale Jr. is not a dumbass.
Well, try picking up a whole new career and being good at it that quickly. I mean, me and Sherwin have our own careers, and then we come over here and we try to talk on a mic, and we suck at it for maybe 168 episodes. I don't know, but at least 10 episodes we legit, like, objectively suck at it. So for him to just jump in that and be doing good, I mean, it's like those guys who are all sports and stuff. The guy the Neon Dion and folks, going multi-sport stuff.
Brian Jordan.
Bo.
Well, Junior, I think he's a better broadcaster than he was a driver, and he was a hell of a damn good driver, too.
Won 26 races and 2 Daytona 500s.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
With that, let's tear it down, and let's that's actually a good segue right into the next one. So I got a phone call. I have a weekly one-on-one meeting with a coworker of mine, PJ. Shout out to PJ. He's the one who put me in his rig up that one time, the iRacing rig. And I crashed a car within 6 feet.
Up in,
up in Grand Rapids. Yeah. So we have a call every Monday morning, just me and him catching up or whatever. And I pick up. He picks up the phone and he goes, "Before we do anything else, clean or dirty?" That's all he said on Monday morning. Clean or dirty? And I was like, man, I don't know what to tell you, brother. I said the way that NASCAR has set up this thing and the way this track is, of course it was a little cheeky. And can it be both? Can it be? This is what has to happen. So here we are. We've got a legend of the sport, race car driver with us right here. Give us your perspective, Rick, on that finish and what your thoughts are.
Well, when, again, Senior, and he's one of my good buddies, and I loved him, but when he did it to Rusty and he did it to Terry at Bristol, and then when I think one time Gordon did it to DJ at New Hampshire, and I don't know, it's 3 or 4 others I think about happened back in my day. I considered it chicken shit racing. Okay, but what's going on now, guys? We're in a different era and a new age, and I still call it chicken shit racing. But here's the deal: if they all accept it and that's the way they want to do it, then I don't have the least bit of problem with it. And what it boils down to, really, honestly, is the two guys and their history and how two guys race each other. And what are the circumstances going on right then? I mean, I've heard drivers, a lot of people say, Logano did the right thing. I'd have done the exact same thing. Well, I heard one driver say I'd have done the exact same thing. Well, I remember watching that dude, and he never did. He got criticized for not doing that exact same thing, right? I mean, I saw that this week, so there's a little bit of playing going on with that. Mm-hmm. But what it goes back to the two individual drivers and how they going to race each other. And in my deal, and it was very simple with me because I was taught when I was a teenager running these local dirt tracks around here. When I was just a punk kid, and I was racing against these grizzled veterans, you might say, and they'd race a while and they'd fight a while. So you learned real quick what you had to do to try to keep from getting your butt whipped every time you got out of the race car, and it wasn't from, but you couldn't be meek and back down. You had to be strong and protect your territory. And that's what I learned how to do, was basically protect my territory. And what that meant was, I race you clean and never touch you for 1,000 miles, as long as you do me the same way. But if you rough me, then that's the way I'm going to rough you. And I was on both ends of that. And each time you made a step up from dirt to the asphalt ranks to the late models to the Busch Series and Cup, every time you make a move up, everybody's targeting you as a rookie, you might say. And everybody's going to see, kind of what they can get away with, how much you'll tolerate, if anything or everything, and what you had to do when that happened. And it was always the same. It didn't make a damn. And it was something to me that was never really talked about. I never heard people talking about it, but damn, it was there every time I made a move up. And every time I had to assert myself, somebody would take advantage of me, and I would just have to retaliate right then. And after a period of time, you establish yourself as somebody that, you can move him and wreck him if you want to, but your ass is going to get wrecked the next time, right? And a period you go through, a certain period you go through back was then, people wanted to settle it out of the race car. I never did like that too much. It's like Schrader told me one time. So, Rick, he said, let's sit down and have a beer and talk about this. This fighting stuff ain't really good. And Schrader was right, by the way. And, you think back, you think about the Kenseth Logano deal, what happened there. You think back about when Boyer took out Gordon out of the championship hunt, basically, and Gordon paid him back at Phoenix. Remember all that?
Oh, yeah.
Then the deal with Hamlin and Chase Elliott last year. I mean, that's fine. If you're going to race like that, to me, guys, that's just deal. It doesn't seem to be the popular opinion this week, but to me it's chicken shit racing. But also it goes along with the two guys that are racing each other. And if the other thing that made it worse is Truex is one of those guys that doesn't do that, right? He, what did he race? 5 or 6 laps on inside Logano, never moved him, never did anything, made the clean pass. He worked and got the pass. As soon as he got by, he gets wrecked. Now, everybody said, and I'm in agreement, and I'm sure Truex knows it now, if you had it to do over when he got under Logano coming out of turn 2, down the backstretch, you just get out of the gas. Keep Logano to the outside of you. And I've done that before. It took a couple incidents for me to learn that. But if I knew that there was some retaliation or the guy was over his head or he's probably a guy you don't want to be behind you, you know what I'm saying? You keep him to the outside. When you get under him, you keep him to the outside of you. Don't, especially at the end of the race, don't give him a chance to wreck you. That was really the only shot Truex had to win that race.
So how would you have described what Dale Earnhardt did that we all see millions and millions of replays of? There's two different incidents with Terry Labonte at Bristol, and there's that incident with Darrell Waltrip at Richmond.
Right.
Would you describe that the same way? Would you call
no,
it
the Richmond deal wasn't chicken shit. That was a misjudgment on Earnhardt's part.
Okay.
Okay.
What about
honestly,
Bristol?
Talking about when he was on the outside of Waltrip going into turn 3 and he cut down low and clipped his right rear, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that was just
him.
a misjudgment.
So, but what about Bristol with Terry?
He just chicken shitted him.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to be clear.
He's a man of consistency, if nothing else. I love it. Yeah, and one of my questions here was, how do you win at Martinsville if you have, a very close lead? Because we keep seeing this at Martinsville,
Yep.
and I think Rick has kind of, answered that. And in the backstretch, you lift a little bit, stay on that, keep him on your outside, and then ride him.
Be number 2.
Yeah, be number 2. The other thing I read from I can't remember because I read everybody's stuff, and so it was either Gluck or Weaver, who I think were they the last 2 guests we've had.
Yes,
which is funny. But somebody said Truex raced him. He had the faster car, obviously. That's no doubt. But he raced clean for 6 laps there. If he got up on him and in lap 1 he's on his bumper, lap 2 he gives him like the little "Hey, I'm here," nudge, and lap 3 says "Get out of my way." Then he gets to pull out probably with a half-second lead, and Joey can't get to his bumper. So that's the other side, because that was one of my initial questions on Monday. Was yesterday morning was how can Truex win this race in that case? So Rick, go ahead. Oh, you with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were going to say something. Sounded like.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh, so what I was going to add is I'm just going to do basically a repeat of what I heard Dale Jr. to say today on his podcast, and the Dale Jr. download at Dirty Mo Radio is, Martin Truex talks and walks like Dale Earnhardt Sr., but he races like Mark Martin. He's like, I want him to race like Earnhardt.
Yeah.
Get in there and make some contact.
Yeah. Do something there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't change the guy's personality, man. You know what I mean? I mean, if he's gonna drive rough, it's gonna be something he's gonna force. The guys that drive like that, they've always been like that. They'll always do that. But and you can't change the personality of a guy. I mean, the way the guy's made up as a race car driver is the way he's not. In order for him to take somebody out like that, I mean, he's really got to really think about it. It's going to halt him. It's going to hurt him a little bit, and it's going to go against his principles. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And some guys will take you out and not even think a thing about it. That's what I say that's what I mean when I say the 2 drivers who's involved, right? And who what's their history together, what's their deal, and the other thing too, and you've heard this said, and this is true. You get down to the end of the race, if you touch a guy to move and to get by him, make damn sure when you clear him that he can't get back to you the very next turn. Mm-hmm. You see, and that's what Martin did. He give Logano every opportunity to nudge him, but the problem that Truex has in his mind is he raced the dude clean. He didn't bump him, move him, do all that. So. I mean, I totally see both sides of it, but again, it's just chicken shit.
It's totally. This is one of the great debates that we're going to have in NASCAR for probably the next 6 months. Is because I totally agree with you about Martin Truex's perspective, and I totally agree with Joey Logano's perspective on what the result could have been if he did what he did. And so this, to me, it's a really neat situation for NASCAR because it's going to fester. It's going to fester in discussion.
Well,
it's going to be.
Well, yeah, it's got to fester. Yeah. I mean, and here's the end result. I mean, if I'm Martin, if Rick Mast is driving that '78 car, 22 will not win that championship. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Certainly, he said that.
I mean, you go back, and guys, this goes back to we call old school racing. I don't know if it's better or barbaric or worse. Maybe what we're doing today is better. I don't know. But just the way I was raised and taught in racing for 40 years or 30-some years of racing, I raced against every roughneck man you could think of, right down to the most polished Jeff Gordon's out there. and all the different personalities and styles. And, that's the way I was taught. It's just like Gordon, he caught so much grief. He caught so much grief when he took out Bowyer, if you remember, at Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, Jeff Gordon came along when Richard Petty was still racing, Harry Gant was still racing. A lot of the old guys that taught me also taught Jeff Gordon, right, in Cup. So that to me was nothing out of character what Jeff Gordon did.
Yeah.
What Elliott did was pretty cool. He cut the dude's tire. He didn't. He wasn't going there and saying, all right, I'm gonna hit the 11 car coming off turn 4 here at Phoenix, and I'm gonna cut his valve stem. Right? He couldn't have wished that to happen any better for the guy.
Right.
It took him out of the race.
Uh-huh.
And it's a little old school deal. So if I'm Martin Truex, Joey Logano will not win. I mean, Joey, if he wants to beat me, wreck me to win, that's fine. If everybody's happy with that, that's fine. But dude, you cost me big time. You just cost me a victory. Now, it's got to be an equal playing field again.
Mm-hmm.
So Roger, Logano, the fans, everybody, Junior, everybody agrees that he did what he had to do. Okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that, dude. You took me out, but you're going to get taken out. Period. And if Truex doesn't do it, then that's something that I wouldn't fully, in my mind, understand either. I know that's kind of a barbaric way of looking at it, but it was my way, the way I was taught about every hero you've ever heard about in racing, and that's the way I was taught, and that's the way it was. And today, if they want to beat and bang more and knock people out of the way, I have no problem with that whatsoever. I call it chicken shit racing, but I have no problem if they do it. But if they want to do that, then the guy on the receiving end has to retaliate. If he doesn't, it's just like a dog marking his territory. You're a dog and you mark your territory, right?
Yeah.
Somebody invades that territory and you go over here to whip up, get underneath the bush and whimper. Well, first thing you know, he's got no territory any longer. So, is that barbarism? Is that what do you think, guys?
Barbarism? No, I don't think so at all. I almost 100% agree with you, because I remember you telling us a story last year about how you had some sort of incident with Earnhardt, and Earnhardt figured out real quick that you weren't going to bleep around with getting moved, and when it was not okay, and he stopped messing with you. And I think Truex, I think this is why Junior said what he said on the Dale Jr. Download today.
Sure.
Martin, you got to stand your ground.
Hey, let me tell you something. Jimmy Spencer took me out in 1989 at Louisville. Not Louisville. What's the little track in Georgia beside? There's a little track in Georgia beside Road Atlanta. Oh man, I can't think of the name of it now.
Yeah, it's not Lakewood. It's
no, it's not Lakewood.
We all gonna sit here and
whatever it
rattle
is.
our brain.
Anyhow,
Gresham is very close to there.
Yeah, it's close to that. It's close to that. But anyhow, whatever the name. Spencer took me out
it's like Lanier. It's Lanier
Raceway. Lanier.
Okay.
That's it, guys. You should know that's home for y'all.
Right? Yeah. Why are we wrecking our?
They don't run any races there anymore, though.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Well, anyhow, Spencer took me out down there one night, and it's about 40 of them Spencers, and they all weigh 300 pounds and mean.
Were they all bald?
So I got my gun and was going to kill him. I was going to shoot him. And everything got settled down, and Jimmy and I become closest of friends from that moment forward, and never rubbed fenders any longer.
Yeah.
Had the same kind of deal with Tom Ellis. If people remember Tom Ellis, he was kind of that way.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy was one of those guys. He would rough you if you messed with him, and he roughed me. He was one of the guys that taught me. He roughed me when I first came into asphalt, and I had to retaliate the next race and take him out. And then from that moment forward, me and Ellis became buddies, and we never rubbed fenders again. So. It's just kind of how you're taught and how you handle things, guys.
So were you the guy that was walking out of the track at Charlotte in the movie 3, which I know gets made fun of a lot, the ESPN production, the one with Barry Pepper? Were you the one that was chasing Neil Bonnet with a gun?
No, that wasn't me. No, if it had been Spencer, it would have been me, yes.
We'll close out this part. I don't know if we've reached any particular conclusions, but this has been awesome to hear. Andrew Kansian at KHANTZIAN, he says, what's the line or what is the line that you don't cross for moving someone out of the way for a win? Does it matter on the situation? I think Rick has sort of answered that in terms of, well, who are we talking about with the people that are participating in this have a lot to do with it. How do you race this guy? How does he race you? That sort of stuff. I think we've said it multiple times, Sherwin, on the show, which is, and I'll get to you in just a second. I know you got something to say, but if you move a guy for a spot, it's legit. If you wreck a guy, if we're talking about the names, doesn't matter.
Right.
Just racing etiquette, car racing etiquette.
Right.
But yeah, and Rick, you were asking earlier, is this barbaric? Is this thing? Well, look, me and Sherwin aren't racers, so we don't know the code. We don't. We can hear the code from other people, but we don't know it when you're in the car and the adrenaline's pumping, and you got to get this one thing, and you're focused on one, on the checkered flag, getting the win, and all that, and what the situation and the code is, and all that. And I don't think fans know that. They can say they know it, but they're not in the race car at that point. So hearing somebody who's been in the race car and all that, very cool. But for me,
it's hard. Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to put a generalization on it,
right?
Because everybody has their own way of thinking about it, and mine. I call it chance. Yet the reason I say that is because if you're behind a guy, if you pass him, you race him, you pass him. I can get behind anybody and hit them and wreck them and win a race. Or move them. I can do that every lap if I want to, right? And but to me, that never was racing. You rub a guy a little bit, and move a little bit, and do those things. Get him squirrely, do some things a little bit, But if you just flat dump him, honestly, guys, they're comparing it a little bit to Hamlin and Chase Elliott last year at Martinsville. Of course, what Denny did, it was way over the line, and everybody's seen it. He just ran down the corner and just knocked the crap out of him, right? Yep. But what's the end result? The end result's the same. You still, of course, he didn't, but you still do it, and you win the race. You take the guy out.
That's a big part of that discussion.
That's a good point right there.
The end result is what you're after anyhow. It's like in life, everything you do is the goal of getting to the checkered flag first, and what circumstances make you do that. And, if you want to move a guy, move him, but you got to expect to get it back. And eventually what happens, this is what I learned, eventually if a guy does you that way and he knows, he finds out real quick or within the next couple of weeks that, I just got paid back for what I did. Well, you're either going to keep it going until the team owner, the sponsors, or somebody gets pissed off because you keep turning up cars and not finishing, or you come to your senses and decide, you know what, me and him not going to wreck anymore. Look at Richard Petty and Bobby Allison. They went through that. They were wrecking each other every week, and finally they stepped down and said, listen, man, we got to stop this crap. We keep turning up our race cars every week. That story's well documented.
No kidding.
So
with that, Sherwin, let's move on to second period. I don't know if we've satiated anyone or at least made them think.
You mean
or
I can't pound this subject
whatever.
anymore?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
kidding.
Oh, man, I could
kidding.
keep talking for a while. But now I'm just, I'll go into repeat mode and everybody's going to turn it all off. Let's go straight into playoffs. Playoffs. We got Joey, of course, locked in. Kyle Busch, Truex, and Harvick, all plus 25 points. So, one race in to this round, and, that's a pretty big gap between –
It's
over half
30 point. It's kind of a 30-point cushion because 55 is the most one driver can score, but only one driver can score that number of points.
Right.
So it's essentially a 30-point cushion.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so Kurt, Chase Boyer, and Almirola looking already like they're going to need a win to get in. This ain't like there's bubble drivers or anything else. It's pretty.
Oh yeah, no,
pretty strong line in the sand at this point.
All of those guys have to win to be in Miami.
Who is most likely to pull that off at Texas or Phoenix, do you think? Or is this a lock at this point?
You've got 3
we're just
SHR
testing?
Drivers.
Yeah.
SHR is super fast, and they get to rely on Harvick's setup to try to get faster, and he's the fastest guy on this surface or this type of surface or configuration, I would say. Texas has half of the surface is pretty new, actually. So we're still waiting for it to age, but I would have a hard time betting on Chase with any. I mean, I would bet if it was like long odds, just to say, here's a 20. Let's see what this turns into.
He's got a little bit of mo from the last few.
10-1,
right?
7-1, somewhere in that range,
right? From those, I mean, I always turn to veteran drivers when, especially after we went to Phoenix this year, and you're like, "Whoa, this is an old school track. This is an old school."
And
place.
they've moved the start finish,
and they're moving stuff around.
Exit a turn too. So sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I hope they
wild card.
I hope they leave the turn names the same.
Oh yeah,
like even though it's obviously we're twisting the track around, we're moving the start finish around to the exit of turn 2. I'd still like them to call it turn 2,
just for old time's
not
sake.
4, and we got the dog. You know what I mean? Just like.
So I see Kurt at Phoenix being something that I could possibly see. The others, I'm not sure because it's a win. It's a win. A W, you got to win at Texas. You got to win at Phoenix.
We don't see a whole lot of
just run good, have a good points day. You got a W to put down.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of. There's not in NASCAR. There aren't a whole lot of must wins that actually succeed.
Right. Harvick the closer, and
hadn't been a closer since he came to SHR.
True, and Tony. I think of people and Casey actually the one time in Atlanta.
Three of his wins
2015
with Hendrick were closer type wins.
Rick, any thoughts on who might be the spoiler, if anybody?
Nope.
Nope. Are you saying
solidly aligned with what we just said?
Solidly aligned with what you said, and I tell you the reason. And it goes back years ago when I was a little boy. I remember my dad telling people, "Never bet on a stock car race, boys. That's the dumbest damn bet you can make. Because too many variables." And what's going on now? The problem is, what did we have 2 or 3 races ago? The SHR cars were top 4 or 5 the whole race, right?
Talladega.
Yeah. It's Talladega. Yeah, I guess that's what it was. Talladega. And then, of course, they've been strong all year. And then at times you've had those Gibbs cars line up and do that crap, right?
Yes, and Daytona in the summer.
Sure.
Yeah, and this year the 14 car was really fast in the spring at Martinsville. They came back the whole SHR bunch used the 14 setup. They couldn't get out of their own way at Martinsville, right?
Yep.
So. And one of the reasons these cars are so finite now, the way they the adjustments on the cars, and any little tiny, minute thing that one of the teams might stumble across makes such a huge difference on the racetrack. And it's kind of, to me right now, it's kind of a crapshoot because, for so long, the 2 and 22 all through the summer, man, those cars struggled. Those cars have been so good for so long through the center of the turn, the apex, and getting in the gas so quick. That's where those cars have been so good, and a good part of the latter through the middle of the summer and the latter part of the summer, the 2 and the 22, they just weren't there. When I was at Richmond, I noticed the cars just weren't doing right. Although, he ended up doing right for the circumstances. But it goes to like Hendrick deal. People talk about Jimmy Johnson being over the hill and him and Chad and all that. And I've always said it's bull crap. It's not a Jimmy Johnson problem. It's a Hendrick Motorsports problem. If you look at them as a whole, they're not performing the way they have been in the past. And we might go to the race this week, and you don't know. You just don't know, guys. You just can't. You just don't know.
Well, we're not all that far removed from all the Hendrick cars winning a race in the same season.
That's right.
All of the Hendrick cars making the chase.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So we're making a huge deal out of SHR doing it.
That's right.
But we're only a few years removed from this having been done.
They still. They probably shouldn't, but to me, they still feel like the startup team, the cool kids. There's.
Well, I think it's switched to Ford.
Tony's
really
name is in there. Yeah, and that too. Same
extra
thing. Yeah.
Adrenaline rush.
Yeah. So that's my reason for it. I don't know
that
if
and
it's
Jack
justified.
Roush racing sucks. So until they can figure some stuff out,
Yeah.
I tell you, one of the best things that happened in NASCAR. How many races we got left? How many
3. Yes, sir.
3. All right, if we could have a Roush car win next week, we could get a Childress car to win the week after. I don't mean back into it, but I mean dominate. If we did that the next 2 weeks and then Chase Elliott win the championship, that would be a perfect winner for NASCAR.
Well, there would be nothing wrong with that from this end.
There is absolutely no possible way I could disagree with you in terms of wanting this sport to explode in the offseason and get ready for the 2019 Daytona 500.
Yep.
If we could have that happen, I think we're going to see a momentum shift with the sport that you would never be able to get just by the general marketing efforts that are being done right now.
We talked last month or a couple months ago that this breed of young guns, these rookies / sophomores / junior season guys, are the best ones in terms of engagement with the their generation that I feel like I've seen in a long time. So it's real exciting to see that stuff.
Engaged with 42-year-old women. All right, that's great for
well,
Allstate
he's not married
commercials.
yet, guys.
But it's not great for getting college kids interested in NASCAR.
Sure. Whereas, we've said it before. You go on, you see Blaney and Bubba playing Fortnite with their friends on the internet, and you tune in and watch
Blaney's
on Twitch
like
or something.
geeking out when he like sees the girl that plays the new Star Wars girl.
Yeah.
Like she didn't even know who he is, but he knows who she is because he's kind of a nerd, and it's
it's great.
You're exactly right. I think that's a big part of his connection, and Ricky, as you know, Ricky, my son, he's been the one that's really pointed that out to me, is how do you make a connection now? And I'm gonna tell you something. I remember when we were exploding in the '90s. I remember Kyle Petty made a remark one time, and we started paying attention. He was exactly right. The inner city kids across America, you look at the inner city in New York, Chicago, all the big cities, the inner city kids, when you'd see videos of them and stuff, you know what those guys were wearing? You probably don't know this. You know what they were wearing? They were wearing racing shirts and racing jackets. They had Intimidator shirts on. They had Wallace shirts on and coats. I'm talking about inner city kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was the damnedest thing. When Kyle pointed that out, we all started paying attention. Lo and behold, he was right. And I'm sitting there thinking, how in the hell have we connected with these inner city kids in these great big-ass cities? How did we do that? To this day, I don't know how we did it, but if you look now, you'll not see an inner city kid wearing any racing stuff, right? So however our generation connected, and I have no idea how that worked. however we connected, and we did, and there's no doubt about it. It was connection there. However we did it, I don't know. But so that brings up the point you're talking about. How do they connect now to the generation now? And I think the social media and what Blaney and Chase and Bubba and those guys are doing, I think it's fantastic. I think that's what has to be done. I think that's one of the ways to doing it. Yeah. Did y'all know that? Did y'all realize that? What I'm telling you?
Oh yeah. No.
I mean about so many youths in the country wearing racing paraphernalia in the mid-90s.
You know what? It was give and take, because there were some times where I would walk up to or I'd see it, and I would engage, and I'd be like, "Oh man, are you a Rusty Wallace fan? Me too." And half the time I'd be like, "Yeah, man, that's cool," and the other half they go, "Who are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm talking about the jacket that you're wearing right now. It's a number 2 Miller Lite Dodge." They're like, "Oh yeah, I just like the jacket." I'm like, "Oh crap!" Okay,
yeah, but
well,
the
cool.
thing that always struck me, I'm not talking about country boys like me or people in rural areas, rednecks, however you want to call it. That's the way we always got classified, right?
I live in the city, by the way.
I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about young kids that you have no. I remember we went to San Francisco once, and we had to do parade. It was for the California Highway Patrol, and we drove our show cars. Probably 15 of us, maybe 20. We had our show cars, and we drove our cars across the Golden Gate Bridge, and each one of us had a reporter riding in the floorboard beside us, right? And we go across the bridge, we go downtown, and I look up, and all these, just literally thousands of people downtown San Francisco in suit and ties, sitting there cheering and waving at us and all. And I'll never forget the reporter. I think he was the San Francisco Chronicle, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He was riding with me, and we're just about to the end. He says, "Rick, do you know where you at?" I said, "Shit, no, man. San Francisco is all I know." He says, "You're in the business district." I said, "Okay, whatever." He says, "You see all these people, these suit and ties?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm absolutely amazed. I never forget. He said, "I'm absolutely amazed and blown away." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "All these suit and ties in the financial district. These guys evidently are all NASCAR fans." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not surprising to me." And I'll never forget when we got out of the car and he was just shaking his head. He couldn't get over. He just couldn't believe all these suit and ties in downtown San Francisco were out there being regular friggin' race fans, right? And I'll never forget. He said, "Man," he said, "I live here and I write for the paper." And he said, "I never realized this thing was as popular as it is here." And I'll never forget. He said, "Hell, these people are just like closet Democrats. You don't know them. You don't know they're here, right?" and I'm like, okay. But the connection. What I'm getting at, guys, the connection was out there across this country. I don't know how it happened, how we did it. I don't know how we got there, and I don't know how the hell we lost it. Right? I just know we got to get it back. And these guys are doing a good job. To your point.
Moving on to third period, Sherwin, Xfinity series. Elliott Sadler, Daniel Hemrick Reddick, and Bell and Tift kind of on the bubble with +1, -1. What is the chances that we see a send-off for Sadler this year? What do you think?
I think he's going to win. He hasn't done that in a while, a long while. He had a chance to point his way to a championship last year. He's going to have his chance to do that again this year. But, man, just for all that Sadler and all the Sadlers have done for racing, and for all that Junior Motorsports has done for Xfinity racing, I want to see. I would love to see that happen. Hemrick, you're going to get your day. You're going to race Cup next year. Reddick, you're too young. You're going to get another year. It's fine. Christopher Bell, you're acting like a V word on Twitter, talking about Truex getting moved out of the way. And we can call that chicken salad or whatever we're calling it.
Chicken salad.
And Matt Tift, you drive for a company that's not quite got it all figured out yet in RCR. So I'm going to be actively rooting for Sadler. I want him to win, though. I want to see him win a race and make this the legit send-off that everybody in racing would want to see. Because Elliott Sadler is the best, nicest human being in racing. There would be no better send-off than for him to win the championship.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. Not accept or anything, but my question was, what are the chances? He really has to. I'm not saying you have to. I'm giving myself some thought here in terms of what are the chances that happens. I think Hemrick can really give him a tough time, but I
think it's Bell.
Yeah,
that is probably
Bell obviously been there, done that.
Yeah.
Rick, what do you think?
Well, number one, Elliott ain't a saint. Let me just say that, okay? He's a good guy, and I love him to death, a Virginia boy. But let's not call him a saint just yet.
My man.
But
he's
really,
our kind of saint,
I'll equate this to the Truex deal. It's definitely, if he was to win it, I think it's like when Truex won a championship. I think it'd be the feel-good story of the year, and there's no doubt about it. That group, him, the JR, nobody more deserving. But for the feel-good story of the year, and for a while, it would be him winning that thing. Now again, all the racing gods have got to line up in his favor. It's just like anything in our sport. There's so many things out of our control and his control. So if things lined up, and I know I sound like Richard Petty here, but the circumstances are going to dictate what happens.
No, I wasn't trying to say that Elliott's a saint. I think he's...
Well, no, you pretty much did.
He is a feller very much in the same vein as we are.
Yeah.
And we ain't saying
in terms of sainthood.
I'm just busting on it. I'm just busting on it.
It's all good.
Let's
I just think it would be a good ending to his career.
No
He's been great for racing no matter what series he's been in, and his family has certainly given their all to the sport.
Yeah.
And it would be pretty damn cool if he could go win Texas and then have a good run at Homestead.
Yeah.
I tell you the problem with that whole deal. If you know where Elliott's from, in Emporia, Virginia, right over on 95, Interstate 95, right before you get to state line, and people get for some reason they got some Barney Fife running around over there, and it's called the Speed Trap of Virginia, right there on 95 near Emporia. And I know because I used to get them here on 81 where I live. Truckers going north to Pocono or going north to New Hampshire to get tickets in my little area, speeding tickets, and they'd all be calling me trying to get help. And for a while I could do that. Then things started getting modernized and it started slowing down. But I don't know, and I need to talk to that Sadler bunch, to see if they've helped people get out of the tickets. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But they do have a good bologna sandwich there at their truck stop, though. I will say that.
Well, I bet
like
Hermie will. If you stop it there at the truck stop and get you a bologna sandwich, I bet Hermie would help you out of a ticket.
It was Darlington. I got me a big old thick slice bologna sandwich at the little place.
Was it?
At the
you
end
got
of
one at Darlington? Because I got one.
It was for breakfast.
I got one at Martinsville. It was awesome.
Yeah. I like me a bologna sandwich now. Fourth period. Let's talk trucks. Johnny Sauter with a win moves on. Is there any argument for any other driver?
What's that, like his 8th win or something?
I mean, is there any bet that you can play? Is there anything, if you had to do an hour-long show on who's going to win the Truck Series championship, how do you make it last more than 5 minutes?
You better have Johnny Sauter on the phone.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that because we talk about this with the way that this playoff format is set up. Any given Sunday, all that sort of stuff. But if you're thinking that anybody else has a better chance, then I think you're drinking something that's got a little more than what's in this glass right here. Sherwin, your thoughts?
Oh yeah, you might be living in one of those states where that stuff you can smoke is legal.
Yeah, might be.
Yeah, I think Johnny Sauter's got her buttoned up. I think all he has to do is run top 20 the next 3 races, and
next 2 races, and then do something at Homestead.
Yeah, well, they got 3 left. We got triple headers the next 3 weekends. I don't think he has to do anything special at all except for not get wrecked or not wreck himself, because we know Johnny Sauter can wreck himself. He damn near did it at Martinsville, by the way, leading the race, chopped second place, and he held on to the car or the truck rather, but he could have easily gone around and stuffed it in the fence. That was a decision that he made.
Rick, your thoughts? A Sauter favorite here for you, or is there something else you're seeing?
Is Skinner and Hornaday, are they still in the picture? Are they up the top with him?
They just missed the playoff Final Four. Just missed.
No, again, that's another one of those deals. As far as the way he's ran all year, he's deserving of it.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, like, a quick little sidebar on that deal. A few years ago, I had a person come to me, and I used to get this all the time. People want to be in racing and want to get involved, and this was a pretty unique situation. And the guy wanted to do a cup team, and I become an integral part of it. And in fact, we'd worked out partnerships with the team and a whole bunch of stuff, and went down. We were far along in this process, and it was pretty legitimate. But it ended up not happening. But anyhow, it got down to, all right, we got to find a driver, right? And at that point, you're getting late in the season. The drivers you might want, number one, you'd have trouble getting them, okay, because you're a startup team. Number two, they're just not available. Kevin Harvick ain't available. Let's put it that way. So, we got down to a list of drivers, and I think we got down just looking at everybody, and I think my top recommendations at that time was, let's go after Johnny Sauter. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I mean, he's been around it forever. He's done it. He's always done a good job. I always loved his daddy. You know what I mean? He was such a cool dude. And I love when families. I love when the fruits or the what is it? Fruits of labor? No, what the hell is it?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, all right. The Keselowski deal. I love that deal. I love Brad because of his dad and his uncles. I remember being in the '80s running those Busch Grand National races. We'd be there. We'd be at Atlanta or wherever we was at these big tracks. Those ARCA cars would be with us, and there was always the Keselowski out there running. They always had those Mopars, right? And the name just stuck with you. And every time for years and years and years and years and years, it seemed like decades, there was Keselowskis out there racing, right? Mm-hmm. And, you could tell, I mean, they loved it, they lived it, they breathed it, and they ate it. And then, finally they have a son comes along that becomes top in our sport, right? And it's kind of the same way with Jim and Johnny and his brothers and all these guys giving all their lives, and you just love seeing somebody within that family. You love seeing success with people like that, right? And so that's kind of my take on that thing.
Cool.
So let's see. Let's move on. New followers. We got a couple new followers this time around. Magic Michael 329 at Odell_Michael. Sup, Michael? Sherwin wrote in there. And hey, this is pretty cool. Amy Dieringer. Amy is our 200th follower on YouTube. If you're not following on YouTube, go over there. You'll get the live podcasts and see the video and all that. Maybe there's people out there who don't know that we do the whole video thing every week. Go give us the old follow. Give us a comment. Like, comment, and subscribe. Isn't that what they say over there on the YouTube side? So, a few questions from the audience here. Let's see. Let's go straight to this one, and we'll get to the others next week. We have one question from some fella named Ricky Mast at Ricky Mast. He says, when will Rick Mast be available to record the next Mastcast podcast? I think he's a little sore that you said yes to us, man.
Let me tell you something, dude. Y'all well know the story there, okay? The Atlanta Braves decided they were going to start winning this year.
Yep.
So the last couple of years, we've been kind of downtrodden, you might say, right? Our record. And so Ricky, everybody knows the story, what Ricky does for the Braves. So, has a little bit of idle time, so he decides he wants to do a deal with me called the Mastcast. So we start back in January or February, whenever it is, and we're humming along just fine. And guess what? The spring training's over, the baseball season opens, and all of a sudden the Braves come out in the first month and they win some ball games, right? And I noticed a change in Ricky a little bit on the Mastcast. It was like, this was front and center. Well, as time went along, then they got that Acuna. I call him Acuna, but Acuna, he comes along.
Acuna Matata.
Yeah, he comes along. Yeah. He comes along, and all these other dudes come along, and they start swinging the bats and pitching and winning games. And first thing you know, the Braves are in a title hunt, and then they win the friggin' division, and they're going to the playoffs first time since the 1800s or 1900s or whenever Chipper was there. And well, that's not true either. But anyhow, all this stuff, and then my loving son decides he's going to do a official Braves podcast. So guess who does that? My son, right? So all I hear is excuses. Dad, we're winning. We got all kinds of stuff going on. Media stuff's going on. We're doing this podcast. Let's get it at 2:38 tomorrow evening. And a bird takes a dump, so we can't do it then. So now that the season's over, and I've been busy for the last few days, now all of a sudden it falls on me. It's my problem. But we did agree earlier when he caught wind of me doing this tonight, it really, I think, upset him. So we have agreed tomorrow before noon we're going to record the next Mastcast.
Dude, that's really funny.
I'll tell you this much. My dad would say the exact same thing about me and give me that level of hell, and I can only appreciate that. I love it. So with that, you know what? I can't not ask this question because I'm curious about it. Mark Wrights Racing at I Write Racing. Rick, how do you think this style of playoff format would have played out with the drivers in the era that you were driving in? Not necessarily the outcomes, like who's going to win it, who's not going to, but who would thrive and or struggle in the sort of situation? I'm sure you've given that some thought, just sitting around. Well, hell, blah blah blah. This guy would have done that, or that guy would have done that, or this guy would have just been out after the first race. I'm curious if you have a Mount Rushmore and a whatever the opposite of Mount Rushmore is of this type of playoff format.
More than likely, that damn Earnhardt would have to have security guards around him 24 hours a day. Okay, that's my first impression with Dale. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, that thing would have been all about him. He would have been all about that. And he was about longevity, and it's kind of it was funny with him and Childress. Childress is all about if you're going to finish fourth, let's finish fourth. Let's get these points. If Earnhardt's running fourth, hell with that. I'm not going to finish fourth. I'm going to finish first, right? And it was always a real neat combination of those two. It was a dynamic that was interesting to watch, the way those two guys were, because Childress is all about, we'll detune the car a little bit. We're going to make sure this car is going to finish this race. And his driver is like, tune it up higher. I want to win the race, right? Because Childress was always thinking about the championship. So that was a neat dynamic. Dale would have been aggressive, but really it boils down to the same thing. He knows, it's like that time when he knew he had it coming from me. He was worried about winning that championship, and he knew that I was going to wreck his butt. I just had to do it and retaliate, and he knew that. So, Dale's not a dummy. So to me, I don't think, guys, it would have been any different. I think, if you take somebody out, to win that race, to get in, well, more than likely, you're not going to win the championship because it's going to come back to you, right? And, maybe a little bit more pronounced in those days if, of course, it wasn't as many cheap shots taken as it is now, if you want to call them cheap shots. I don't know if you even call it cheap shots now. It's just the way we race now. Maybe that's what it is. But in those days, if you stepped your game up and did that the last 5 or 6 races, you were taking a chance that more than 90% chance that the next race or when it counts, you're going to get taken out, And so I don't know. I think really, I've thought about this a good little bit. I think the thing would have been self-policed very well.
Mm-hmm.
I really, that's just the way, knowing the guys, knowing how we all raced each other, knowing how it was. It don't matter. To get into the chase, you got to take somebody. It don't matter. It's about the lap. It's about that race, that day, that particular lap, and what you did to that guy or what he did to you. Okay, no matter what the circumstances, that's dirty racing, and you're going to get paid back. And I think that it really wouldn't be much different than from the way we raced each other. I just don't think it would be. I mean, you hear guys today talking about the pressure everybody's under. You can imagine the pressure. Let me tell you something. In 1995, when you were battling, if you were trying to get the lead, try to win a race or something, there's just as much pressure then, because it's the pressure is when you're out of the race car. You think and listen to the sponsors, listen to the team, and all that. When you're in the race car, that's a bunch of crap, man. You're doing the best you can do to try to win that race. And the way you race people is the way you get raced.
I love that perspective.
I love the way that you said that.
Yeah, and the pressure is when you're outside the car.
Yeah, and so the thing I would add to this conversation is, having listening to Rusty Wallace talk on Nate Ryan's podcast about what he looked at when he saw Earnhardt as someone that wanted to get every point there was, this is not to contradict what you said about him wanting to win, because he absolutely always wanted to win, but understanding that 1 point here, 5 points here, 6 points there, 2 points here was how you win championships. Mm-hmm. That's how Rusty scripted his 1989 championship season. It was, oh, wow, it really doesn't matter if I win the race, because, it matters, but there are other points to be gained potentially by not trying to win the race.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's do this.
Exactly.
Let's gas it up. Let's talk about some Texas coming up. Here we go. Playoffs. It's still playoffs.
Yeah.
Colt
Rick, 45s and cowboy hats.
Our new follower, Mr. Magic Michael 329 at Odell Michael, he says this. He says Rick's he did his research. He said Rick's best finish at Texas was 20th, driving for AJ Foyt. What was it like to drive for AJ? And do you have any funny stories about AJ Foyt that you can share?
I got a million AJ stories, but that was really. See, the neat part about it, I got to know AJ when I first came in full-time NASCAR. Our Winston Cup was with Skoal, U.S. Tobacco.
Uh-huh.
Well, at that time, U.S. Tobacco also sponsored AJ Foyt, and they sponsored Snake Perdome. So before I ever drove the first race for Skoal, they used to take, what they would do, they'd take in the wintertime, they had a big mansion down in West Palm Beach, 2 blocks down from Mar-a-Lago, Trump's place, whatever that is. And it was pretty decadent, man. And they had another place to Watch Hill, Rhode Island. We went in the summertime. But anyhow, you go down there for a week. It would be me, AJ, Harry Gant, Snake for Dome, all our wives,
Oh my
and
gosh.
the executives of UST, right? Well, actually, the first year I drove for them, they took us to Dominican Republic, just the guys, just us guys.
Uh-oh.
So, but anyhow, they would take us in the winter, in July. They would take us all down there to West Palm Beach, and in the summer, for a week in the summer we'd go to a big mansion in Rhode Island, and it was decadent, man. I mean, big old mansion, and you had servants, and it was the damnedest thing for me I'd ever seen, right? So anyhow, all through the years, I got to know AJ away from the racetrack, and the AJ that I knew was not the AJ that you saw on TV, right? He's still rough, pretty rough dude, you know what I mean? But so anyhow, that year when I drove for AJ, it was really the only thing that AJ was concerning himself with me was how do we make the cars better? When I first got in these cars, it was like a third of the way through the season, and it was a new team, and they were struggling. And I jumped in this car and started driving, and I drove it for 2 or 3 weeks. AJ called me and said, "Rick, what do you think of the race team?" I said, "Well, AJ, I'm gonna tell you something." I said, the chassis the front snouts, all the locating points on the front snouts have been moved from Ronnie Hopkins. They were Ronnie Hopkins cars. He was a famous chassis builder. I said, all the pivot points have been moved. Geometry's different. I said, the bodies are put on these cars. These cars ain't got any downforce in them. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, the motors are right weak. He says, well, God damn, Rick, you tell my race team ain't worth a shit. I said, no, AJ, I'm not saying that. But I say there's one thing that's really, really excellent with your race team that you just can't do any better. I mean, it's perfect. He said, what's that? I said, your driver.
That's funny. That's a good joke.
So anyhow, he cussed a little bit. But from that moment, from that conversation, he had all the cars sit back down to Ronnie Hopkins to have front snouts put on them. He immediately started having the guys tear the bodies off the car, and he had 2 or 3 different outside vendors start working on the bodies, and he immediately called up motor engine suppliers, right? And says, everybody do your best motor and bring it to our shop. We're going to put them in these race cars and put them on our chassis dyno, and whoever's got the most power, that's who we're going to go with. You know what I mean? That's just the way he was, trying to make that race team fast, And as far as that goes, I mean, AJ and I never had a cross word, never any problems whatsoever, as far as that goes. His whole deal was, like most racers, the whole deal is, what do we do to make it go fast? And that was, I always respected him for that.
Yeah. AJ's tougher than woodpecker lips, as they say.
Yeah, I remember, Simpson Safety Products, Bill Simpson, he saved more lives than anybody, the seat belts, the helmets, and all that. Bill used to race a little bit at Indy. He tried to race. And if you remember the guys, but way back, they used to have the qualifying day, and, you get down to the end, they'd have 50 cars there. And it'd be like 5 minutes to go, and somebody be in last position, and somebody would go out there and make an attempt and try to get in the race and knock somebody out. It was really a nerve-wracking time for the Indy 500 qualifying. It was a big-time deal. And something went on one time with AJ's cars and the car Bill was driving. I don't know what happened, but it was something about the qualifying. Maybe Simpson got knocked out of the thing. Anyhow, Bill went up and got in AJ's face, right? Well, the story I heard, was that next thing he knew, AJ picked Bill Simpson up by the neck, by the back of his belt behind him and his shirt collar, picked him up and turned him upside down and stuffed him down in a 55-gallon trash can. Well, I'd heard that story a few times.
Yeah.
So next time I seen Simpson, I said, Simpson, tell me, I've always heard this story. AJ told me, when AJ told me, I kind of knew it was true. And I said, what is that true? He said, oh yeah, it was true. He said, first mistake I made was getting up in his face. And I said, what happened? He said, he just picked me up and turned me upside down, and next thing I know, I'm upside down in the trash can with my legs sticking out, right? And I said, well, what did you do then, Bill? He says, what the hell would you do? I said, I stayed right there. He said, that guy was going to kill me. He's going to kill me in that trash can. I just stayed there. You know what I mean? So, but it's a million type stories like that.
I love it.
I
love it. Let's.
One of the reasons
AJ's like the Rocky of the race. I will not take no for an answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. Take it away, Junior, right here. There it is. Let's talk about Texas. Who we gonna pick? Who we're looking at Rick, as the guest of honor, is there somebody you've really got your eyeball on for the next race?
No.
No.
Well, again, guys, I don't predict these things because something can change so easily.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the thought is you go for the 4 or the 78. I mean, that's the easy pick. That's the betting line. But it wouldn't. Nothing surprises me. Some things would be a bigger surprise. Stenhouse goes out there and waxes the field, or Ryan Newman waxes the field, right? Or Bubba Wallace waxes the field. Well, they got more problems than just a finite adjustment.
I'll give you 20-1 odds on any one of those happening.
Yeah,
but
a finite adjustment will make a difference between the 4 car, the 78, or the 18.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it takes a bigger adjustment for those other guys I talked about.
Yeah,
and a little bit also the Hendrick bunch, although Chase has done well, but they're not where they need to be yet. So I just don't do that. It's just goes against my grain to try to predict these. Now, if I had a pattern right now that I knew for sure was going on at Texas, coming into Texas, I'd say, yeah, let's go with this car. But, the easy pick's 4, 18, 78. The big 3. But they ain't been the big 3 lately, have they?
No, they haven't.
Nope.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you just said, except there's no better feeling than coming on, because we do this show every week, coming on the podcast the next week. Every week, I'm excited to do it. But there's no better excitement than when you just called the winner, and you're like, I get to show my butt and talk about how much I know about NASCAR and nobody else does because I picked the winner.
Right.
So, and I did that 3 times in a row this year.
Sweet.
Brad Keselowski, I just kept picking him, and he kept winning for whatever reason. Anyway, Sherwin, what you got?
I'm gonna ride the heater. I'm gonna pick Joey Logano.
There you go. Wow. Yeah. I'm wondering. If Joey. This would be I don't know if it is, but this would be a great time for a payback from Truex to say, because it doesn't really matter, but it kind of matters enough to, say, hey, I'm
done
here.
Being fast.
I'm not going to argue against that. I think this would be the perfect time.
That's
if
not
Joey's,
a shot over the bow. That's just conversation.
If Joey's running up front, it's a perfect time because it doesn't really, quote unquote, matter for Truex to do something.
Absolutely, it doesn't. Like in the
can
grand scheme.
Can I interject, guys?
Yes,
Please?
you absolutely can.
When you retaliate, it has to matter.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen,
is why we're
now,
here.
Way back in the day, but to make it matter, it was about the guy hurting. It was about either he hurt because it really hit hard, or it hurt because the 5 knuckles hit hard. It's when it makes a difference. And the deal with him is, if he takes Logano out there, or he pays back there, so be it. Ain't no big deal. But when you retaliate, see, that's the deal. I keep going back to this barbaric crap of mine. When you retaliate, it has to matter.
It has to hurt.
It has to be. Well, it has to hurt, and not just physically anymore. It has to be.
Oh yeah, I didn't even mean physically.
What you're doing when you retaliate, you're not just retaliating because the guy wrecked you. You're retaliating to make sure the guy understands. Do not ever do that to me again. It's equally as much that as it is just paying back for what you did, but you're wanting to set the tone for the way we're going to race the rest of our careers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to do that, the guy has to remember what happened. And if you take Truex to what he says he will not win the championship. And the only way Logano don't win the championship right now, correct? He doesn't finish the race at Homestead.
Yes, that's where I was going next, Rick, is we're not going to see anything weird go on with Truex and Logano at Texas or Phoenix. If anything retaliatory happens, it's going to be at Homestead.
Well, is there any bite to that bark is the question, because that bark came as he's getting out of the car. So that's
the only clarification, the only thing I would say about that is he did not take Truex out of the championship, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Truex,
possibly.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I get lost sometimes, but Truex right now he's going to Homestead with a chance to win, right?
He's got a plus 25 point advantage.
Yeah, very likely
over 2 races. If they race
very likely.
the way,
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
very likely.
Yet.
And even if one of the guys is a spoiler, who's in out right now, he's still in because of wins.
Well, he's tied with Harvick and Kyle Busch. They all have plus 25, which is a weird situation in and of itself.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the only weird thing that could happen is if Boyer or Chase or give me another one. Almirola win one of the next 2 races.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, with that, Sherwin, I'm going with a spoiler here, and Rick already mentioned the number, but Kyle Busch is no.
Kyle's Busch is going to win.
He is no stranger to having both success at Texas and also giving the double bird to the.
That's true.
Hey, speaking of Kyle Busch, Kyle's Busch or whatever you called it, Kyle's Busch. Have y'all seen the previews for this racing show, the Wives deal yet?
Yeah.
Y'all know anything about this deal?
Yeah, I've seen it.
I've tried.
I've watched it about 3 times.
Am I going to be happy or am I going to be sickened?
I think you're going to be. Well, you only be sickened if you watch it. And the good news is for me,
I'm holding out high hopes. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, my extensive, horrifically expensive cable package does not include CMT.
Right.
So I will not even be able to watch it, which is perfect.
I think what'll happen is Rick's going to watch one episode and then he's going to call the producers and go, "This is all horse manure." And
it's going to be completely bullshit.
Let me tell y'all about the real deal.
Yeah, I mean,
we got connect. We got whatever it takes to connect. I don't care. You know, I told the MRO preacher one time at the racetrack. He's talking about attendance at our MRO services at the racetrack on Sunday morning, how to get more people to come. And that was the year I drove for Hooters, and I told him, I said, "Man, I can do it for you. I can get him in there." He said, "How?" I said, "If I get him in there, then it's your job to preach him, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "You don't care how I get him in there." He said, "No, you get him in there, Rick." I said, "All right. Next week, I'll go to these stores, and I'm going to bring me about 7 or 8 of these Hooter girls, and I'm going to bring them up right in front of the church, right there at the entrance where everybody can see them, and invite everybody in the church." "Oh, no, Rick, I don't think we better do that." I said, "No, we've already made the deal, dude. You said you preach them if I brought them in."
Already made the deal.
Listen, preacher man.
So, what is that, motorsports outreach or whatever?
Whatever you got to do, connect. If it's Racing Wives show does it, I'm all for it. Dude.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Rick, we're going to close this thing out. We could do this for another hour and a half, and
sure.
I don't know. I've had a blast, as we do every time we do this. So thank you for being on. Why don't you tell the folks where they can find you, and the next time we're going to have a Mastcast.
Well, Mastcast is on Twitterville out there in social media land somewhere, and we'll have a new one up tomorrow, I think. Yeah, I know we will. And Ricky's good at this crap. He's at Ricky Mast. What is he, Ricky Mast?
It's just at Ricky Mast.
At Ricky Mast. And I'm Rick Mast 22. I do know that. You know what I mean? In Twitter world, you know. So, and I tell you something else, guys. This is the first time we Skyped this from my home. We got fiber optic in Rockbridge, Bass, Virginia. If you look on a map and you find Rockbridge, Bass, Virginia, you think, how in the world did they get fiber optic out there? Well, it just so happens the main trunk line on our rural cooperative electric service goes right down not too far from my home. And we got friggin' fiber optic in Rockbridge, Bass. I'm telling you, that would be equal to, how can I say it? Not Bubba winning. Marcus coming out of retirement this week at Texas and waxing the field.
That's awesome.
Oh, I love it.
That's what you equate it
to.
I
want to add that in, but I got totally distracted. And
perfect
I don't have
way
it anymore
to close us out. Sherwin, let's close us out. Y'all know where to find us. PTMpodcast.com, at PTM Podcast on the Twitter handle. All the stuff on Instagram, everything else. Sherwin, you know what the deal is.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're at Tailgate Mayor on the Twitter. I'm at Pregame Engineer on the Twitter. I'm at Andrew L. Sherwin on the Instagram. Our website's www.ptmpodcast.com. You can email us there, ptm@ptmpodcast.com. And we have a Patreon account where we do really cool things.
Are you still there?
He's asking if we're still there.
Yeah.
We'll,
Rick's like, hey, I can't hear you.
That happens. Y'all, thank you so much for joining. We will talk to y'all next week.
Better kick it off.
I love it.
Get back to it. Hey, Rick, sorry.
Hey, what are y'all doing to me?
We forgot to tell you that we were throwing the flag and then we were going to be gone for like 40 seconds.
Oh, yeah, at the very end.
Right.
No, it made it really funny as we're trying to do our outro. Rick's going, hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Y'all there or what?
That's going to be a really funny ending to the audio.
That's what I said. There's a certain intelligence level you cannot exceed to be a damn NASCAR driver.
Or a fan
Or
of
a NASCAR
look at us.
podcaster,
Right.
as it were.
Right. With that, we're going to say bye to the YouTube folks. Hey, y'all have been awesome.
You know what
Thank you for joining. What'd you want to say? Yeah, go for it.
The thing I forgot to say, and so I'll say it now because we're still live on the YouTube, is Marty Smith did a podcast this week with our freaking childhood hero, Chipper Jones, and it was flipping fantastic.
Hell yes. That sounds awesome. Sounds awesome.
And he's got a book, too. It's called Ball Player.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. I keep saying awesome, but whatever. We're on the YouTube.
When I finish racing to the finish, I'll give it to you. Then I'll buy Ball Player. I'll read it, and then I'll give it to you.
Awesome.
Go
I know Rick,
Go Braves.
a Braves
Go
fan,
Braves.
So
Yeah, my man. So with that, thank you, YouTube folks. And Rick, the YouTube, the folks on the YouTube chatter right here have been just saying, Rick is the man. This was awesome. Can't wait till next time, etc. So we'll make sure to have you. Once again, postdoctorate.
that's right.
Heck yeah, guys. Heck yeah.
For the next
Y'all
one.
make sure you keep that siren greased up down there below you.
Oh,
yes, sir.
Hell
Hell yeah.
Yes, sir. We gotta go talk to old Gordon here in a bit.
Yeah.
So
We're
long,
working,
YouTube folks. Thank you for joining, etc., etc.